She was an insomniac and on Xanax for years for sleep. It wasn't helping anymore, hence why she kept taking more and more. Lynn did what she wanted, when she wanted, and how she wanted. She was 62 years old and wouldn't listen to me or anyone for that matter. Even my mom called her because I had told her about the gun and situations while she was in the hospital. There were a lot of things I am sure my mother would have talked about had she had the chance to testify, and I am not sure why my attorneys did not argue against the state's motion to exclude her testimony. Instead, they decided not to call her to testify. Everyone assumes because she was my mom, she would lie to protect me, but that is not my mom, nor would I want that or ask that of her. When I did wrong years ago and got my forgery charges, it was my mom who turned me in. It wasn't easy for her, but she knew I was in the wrong and I needed to be held accountable. My mom knew Lynn. She was her best friend, and she knew me, her own daughter. It was a huge blow to my defense that nobody got to hear from her, or what she knew or didn't know for that matter. My mom tried with Lynn nonstop until my mom couldn't deal with it anymore. I tried with Lynn. I talked to her all the time. That is why she did a lot of things I did not agree with when I wasn't around. When she died, Visine wasn't even on my mind because she was drinking it for months. That was according to her. I didn't see it for months. I only saw it shortly before the hospital stay. I was the one who wanted an autopsy and answers. I wanted to know if the doctors had missed something in all that time, if she really was sick, or if it was in her head. It had gotten to the point where we no longer knew if it was her or the doctors, because it didn't make sense how they weren't finding things wrong, yet all she did was complain, and then she would leave the hospital before she got answers or refuse tests. If she did this, if I had been back sooner that day, could I have gotten help, or what had really happened? Even the story of cancer, she had it, then she didn't. I really didn't know what to believe anymore. I called the medical examiner for answers, absolutely. It really affected me because I was always around, and then to find her dead, I had to know what happened. I needed answers, and I could not let it go. I went back to her condo that night. Yes, I did, because the scene was cleared, and I was contacted by the police. Her cats were locked in a bedroom where the police had put them while they were there. Months later, I did lie again about somebody giving me Visine in a drink. How could I say what had really happened? I had spent months emptying her condo, taking care of all of her stuff, and I haven't even processed her death, yet I was going through all the motions. I kept dreaming she'd come home wondering where all her stuff was and getting mad. It was Christmas, the first holiday we had that we had usually celebrated together, and I had tried to keep myself busy. After I was going through the boxes of hers in our basement, I had came across her suicide letters. I had put them aside and forgot all about them, out of mind, out of sight. I didn't really know what they were when I had first found them. But when I did find them, Anthony had testified. He said he didn't want to read or look at them. So I sat in the basement reading them. I cried, I was angry, and shocked to learn all that I did, mostly about her mom's death and what she was going through. And that's when I fully learned about Visine, and only then did I research it. I never looked it up before that day. Yes, prior I knew Lynn drank it, but only to release her pain and help her sleep, as she had said. I was lost with all this new information. Within a week or two, at most, I had went out with friends to watch a live band. I had overdrank and came home. I was in my feelings. I was thinking of Lynn and how she would have loved going to watch a live band like that back in the day. How she would still be here. How she should still be here. Her suicide letters, life, all of it. I had missed her. I was mad and angry over all of it. I wanted to relate to her. I wanted to understand why she had done the things she had did. Most of all, I wanted to be close to her again. I was trying to see what the Visine did or how it made her feel because I didn't get it. Nothing had made sense to me, and I was trying to make sense of it all. I don't know how else to explain it. I went to the bathroom and I drank Visine. I went and sat outside crying before finally going to bed. I woke up the next morning sick and not feeling good. I was to take Scott's youngest son, who I adored and loved, to a birthday party. I was mad at myself because I couldn't take him. I had cherished the time we had had with him on weekends, and I didn't know how to tell Scott. So again, I did. I lied. How could I explain? Do you know how I struggled? How many times I wanted and needed to talk to Scott about Lynn? How many times I couldn't sleep or woke up in the middle of the night and would go outside and sit crying because I loved him and I lied about Lynn as she had wanted, and it had gotten so out of control and I couldn't talk to him. Then later, when I was arrested, I no longer knew what to believe myself. After all Lynn had said and the suicide letters, I didn't know what to say or not to say. Who would believe me because it was too much? How do you explain all I knew? I knew I didn't help her, I didn't take her life, and I believed that they would realize and figure out I wasn't involved. Then they brought up the Visine, and I was afraid because I did buy it for her, at her request, with other regular grocery items when I went and did her shopping. I didn't go to the store just for Visine. Then they started questioning on financials, and due to my past record, it didn't really matter what I said. They had their minds made up. I asked, offered, and took a polygraph test at my own request, not theirs. To this day, I have never been given those results or have seen them. This case came about for two reasons. First, because of who Lynn's distant cousin was. He was a prior district attorney for none other than here, Waukesha County. He had no relationship with her, and when she passed, he read about it in the paper. He inquired by calling and coming in person to the medical examiner's office. He was given my name and my number by the medical examiner because I found her. He never contacted me. He turned around and C-capped me. I never called him, I never called him when she passed because I did not know of him, nor was he on her personal list of who to contact. The second reason was from him C-capping me. My prior forgery convictions, he said, and I quote, "It did not pass the smell test because I was on her will." It didn't matter that I admitted to those charges back then, served my time, or changed my life since. Now, years later, or a decade later, they were brought back up in my face, nor did it matter that she too had had her own lengthy record. Lynn's cousin, his name is John, her ex-boyfriend Jim, and Anthony all came in person, called multiple times, and spoke with different people here, from deputies, sheriffs, detectives, people in the medical examiner's office, probate office, and even judges. Some were even friends of theirs or acquaintances, asking questions and voicing concerns, pointing fingers at us, my mom and I. There was so much done behind the scenes that this is not normal, and for that matter, appropriate, but it still happened, and none of that was talked about either during trial. The cousin did not know Lynn, or us for that matter, but he was sure to repeatedly voice his opinion of her friends, while the two main detectives laughed and joked with him about his prior time in office and how he was such good friends with the sheriff. The detectives told him he owed them a favor, and if he could talk to their boss for them and get raises and early retirement. Those detectives went to speak to him about an investigation into his cousin's death that he pushed, and they were laughing and joking with him how he owes them a favor. And no, I am not kidding. Those same detectives went and told my family and my friends I confessed, which I never did. They told them that I stole money from her, which I did not. They told them that I am a con artist and the worst of the worst, and I pry on people who have no one. Had them believe them, there was a chance that I even poisoned them. They asked them if they knew why I was on probation, and told them it was for stealing $35,000 from my grandmother, and it goes on, which is all incorrect and not true. Let me tell you, these things did not come from my family or friends telling me this. They came from me reading and listening to my own recordings in my discovery that I have listened to. My own friends believed everything these detectives told them at face value. Why? Because they are cops and they would not lie, they said. Well, they did lie many times about a lot, and even on the stand. So let's be clear, it was not just me who lied in this case. People think because they are cops, they tell the truth. Like they can do no wrong. Well, let me guess again, because they do wrong, just like anybody else. You see it every day. These detectives' evaluations and conclusions of this case were reached based upon their own biases, and the bias from the cousin of a former district attorney, where normal conclusions should have been based on an objective analysis of the evidence. I feel their jobs, as well as the others involved, made them vulnerable to official influence. Nobody has a clue what it is like being locked up for something you know you did not do. The more you speak to the detectives, how much they repeat the same question 20 different ways. I was losing my mind as they twisted and turned everything I said. It is crazy. They literally had me start thinking and believing I actually did something wrong when I knew I didn't. And they were so caught up on what they believed that it didn't matter that there was no evidence, no proof. Once their mind is made up, they were determined that what you say no longer matters because they won't believe you. The detectives were laser focused on me, where they never looked at this case objectively to view all possibilities. It took me 4 attorneys for someone to listen and get handwriting analysis done. I was the one who requested that. We got the FBI because I pushed for it, because I did not write those checks or suicide letters, and I wanted to prove it. We didn't hire an ordinary expert. We got the FBI. Why didn't the state bother to have those looked at or checked when they had years prior to do so? But yet, once again, once we got the FBI, the state tried to tell them that they requested their help. No, they did not. I did. They had even more of Lynn's writing that would have helped, but they chose not to send it off or even offer it to us to use. Do you know the state requested financial and phone records on Lynn, my mom, and I before they requested medical records? The state and the MA didn't even have or obtain her hospital records, nor did they even request them, for that matter, until 6 months after her death. I was a suspect in her death before they ever requested those records. Tell me how that makes sense. They didn't think it was important or part of her death to know why she was in the hospital or what had all happened to her those 2 weeks she spent there, considering she was released only 5 days before she passed. They never took me to the park when I repeatedly asked. They said there was evidence to help me. Why not tell them? So when I finally did, yet they wouldn't take me to find it, why? To this day, nobody has ever personally taken me to the park. Why? Are they afraid that I might be right? I have had 8 different attorneys, and not one has even tried to put in a motion requesting the judge to allow it. They claim I did this. Why didn't I take out a life insurance policy on Lynn? Remember, as they say, I killed her for money. As the state said, I was stealing money from her for over 3 years. Why did I call 911? Stay on the scene. Why did I call wanting answers from the medical examiner? I was on probation and told my agent I had police contact. I called 911 and found her dead, that I was her personal representative and everything. I was under investigation for 6 months. If I was responsible and left in the public for almost a year after her death before I was arrested, better yet, I never ran. I could have been long gone. I had almost had a year out, but I didn't. I had no reason to. I came in to talk to the detectives. I called for answers. None of this makes sense. None. I have played the what ifs for over 5 years now from that day I found her on October 5th, 2018. Nobody knows how I wish I knew what I know now. I wish I was back sooner. I wish I had tried harder to get her help long before that day. Told the hospital and the doctors more, done more, period. I live with those regrets. But as I sit here from the beginning to now, and however many years from now it takes, I will not stop fighting because I was wrongly convicted by this crooked, corrupt, and biased county. They only put out what they wanted and allowed you to hear. And they also changed things to fit the story to use against me. My trial attorneys were not able to bring up Lynn's mother's death, which was a large reason Lynn took her own life, as she stated in her own words, in her own suicide letters, which were admitted in trial but not discussed, where Lynn explains how she poisoned her mother with Visine and how it has haunted her ever since. You heard those today at the beginning from me. Those detectives looked into her mother's death, subpoenaed multiple medical records. Some were never turned over, yet we couldn't ask or bring any of it up during trial. Again, I was on trial fighting for my life. We can't bring up how the deceased, Lynn, killed her own mother years prior when it was similar to how she took her own life, and why, if not all of why she took her life. How is that fair? I should be able to defend myself fully when these were the letters Lynn left and those were the things she wrote in them. Yet the state can bring up my old forgery charges I had over a decade ago. The state has been allowed to speak and put out anything in the media from the beginning, but I have been silenced by a protective order the courts gave me even after my conviction. The state, along with Anthony, held a press conference immediately after I was found guilty, and I still wasn't allowed to speak. But when I had put out a brief statement after the state's submission of fake letters, trying to defend myself because nobody else was speaking out for me, I was reminded by the courts of that protective order and being in violation. This is insane. I haven't been able to speak. 2 witnesses, yet other witnesses have spoken to others, changing their stories to match. Hell, even the neighbor Jean, who personally knew or met Anthony or Corinne prior to Lynn's death, but sometime before trial became friends with them. When I had regular contact with her before and after Lynn's death, she was who I called sometimes to check on Lynn if I couldn't be there, or if she was having a bad day to go over, or if I was going out of town, or if Lynn fell and I needed help. We talked about Lynn a lot. Then I had people who knew Lynn in situations that later refused to testify or said they didn't know things on the stand that they prior did, because I am all over the media, and who wants to defend somebody accused of a murder charge? No business is going to back me, or person wants to defend me, even if it's the right thing to do, or if they know and have information to help. It is not right, and it is not fair. I was allowed to be plastered all over court TV and the media like a circus show. These are real people's lives. This is not okay. It is Lynn's life, my mom's life, and my own life on public display, yet what's being displayed is not accurate or even close to the truth. You think because they report it and it's the news that that's what they say is true? It's all about ratings and what people think they want to hear. Forget the truth or displaying the full story. This case was highly hyped up and sensational in the headlines due to the Visine aspect, but it was also extremely and purely a circumstantial case with no physical evidence to back it. Yet the jury chose to convict me. And you want to talk about every defendant has the right for representation and a fair trial? That's all crap. You can't afford representation. You have to hope and pray because you are given representation from the State Public Defender's Office. How many public defenders or attorneys did I go through? 8. 8, and to date, none of them have done enough for me. And then everything is funded by their office too, which is all from the state, which is the same one who is against you. During trial, the state asked our experts about their payment and how much they were paid to testify. Truth is, everyone in my trial, including witnesses and jurors, are paid. They are all paid by the state, county, the same as the district attorneys, their experts, medical examiners, detectives, my attorneys, and my experts. So if you think the state has an unfair advantage because they are trying to portray it like that by saying my experts are being paid for, well, of course they are. They have a job to do like everyone else, and they aren't being paid to lie or change what they believe. Their lives and reputations are on the line. If anything, it is harder for me, the defense, because the state doesn't like to offer much money for the defense to hire experts. They are very limited versus the state, who can get all and have all and what they need. Our experts were paid their fee to look at this case and give their honest opinion of what the evidence shows and where it leads them, and then to explain how and why they came to that conclusion. My own defense team during trial, well, let's be clear here, anyone who watched my trial or saw in person, my trial attorneys were inadequate to say the least, in a nice way. I will say they did offer some good, whether it be finding the right experts or so forth. These people were given my life, my case to represent, while I watched frustrated on the sidelines. Nobody has a clue unless you or somebody you know has been through it. It is very hard to defend yourself while sitting in jail. You can't do anything for yourself. You have to rely on other people, and that is hard because at the end of the day, they go home. It doesn't affect them while I sit. As of today, I said, I've had 8 attorneys total. There was so much that was never done, records never obtained, people never spoken to, and on and on. It is so frustrating because I wanted these. I asked and asked, what was I to do? I have even wrote the courts on things. Half of those never made it to you, and when you responded, I never got anything in writing. I had to have my friends or family CCAP for a response. I was always told to talk to my attorneys, or my attorney has to do this or that. The problem is, they haven't, none of them. How am I to do these things when I physically can't or am not allowed? It does not make sense here. We are talking about murder charges. This is just sick how nobody cares. Nobody does anything, and there's only so much my friends and family can do. I sit here upset, frustrated, angry, because nobody gives a damn at how screwed up and wrong this is. I came to court numerous times on things I was told was incorrect or lying regarding issues in jail, my attorneys, discovery, closed during trial, so forth. I have tried to speak up in court only to be told I can't because I have an attorney to go through. But again, they weren't doing anything. As of late, I again was told that when I came to transcripts back in December, when my trial attorneys were released, you stated that you were going to request those transcripts. Then versus waiting for appeal, because when a new attorney comes on board, they will need to review everything, and you were trying to speed up the process so they wouldn't wait or have to request them. And then stated that hopefully they can use trial video too, since it is available and would be quicker. Later, when I inquired about those transcripts, I was told that you never said that and I was wrong. I am sorry, but I am not lying or wrong. I know what I heard. I completely understand there are a lot of cases going on, and the DAs, attorneys, and judges are all busy and may forget some things. But I assure you, I only have one case. This is my whole life that is on the line for. I know what I heard, and I also wanted those transcripts too, because there was things I wanted to personally review and check on. I can't go back and look at the record as easily as others, nor can I do anything for myself except ask others who were in the courtroom to verify what I heard, which I did, but waiting and counting on attorneys when they aren't helping, responding, listening, or caring, frankly, is beyond frustrating. Everyone keeps passing it on to the next person. I was told by one of my trial attorneys he would send me copies of our last day in court when he was released that I have requested for over a year of my discovery. He said not to worry, he would make sure he sent them. I wrote him 3 times and he never sent them. Then I was also told by the public defender's office they would try to get me trial video, even after they had to step down, but never got that either. I wrote the supervisor, Jeremy, recently and never received a response. It is my understanding I still have 7 to 8 boxes of my trial, discovery, and notes, etc., sitting in the public defender's office. They are not even handling my case right now because of a conflict, yet they have my discovery still in their office. Then let's talk about my team versus the state's. I went to trial, and the state had 5 people who sat at the state's table during trial, 3 assistant district attorneys, and let's not forget the 2 detectives on standby, plus half the gallery on the state side, full of others from the district attorney's office, coming to watch like it's a show or run out to get whatever they need any second. What a fair fight. I got 2 attorneys and another who helped fill in. None even got to know Lynn or me, and that's my best shot, my best chance. It's not right, and it's not right. How fair do you possibly think it looks to a jury? Then the discovery issues. With today's technology, most of mine was electronic and put on a drive that I was not allowed to keep in my possession. So I had to request it in the jail when I wanted and wait to get, which I did not agree with. It should be in my possession at all times. Anyone can view and look at it in the jail or do whatever they want with it. It was lost numerous times. It was just a few weeks ago. Again, nobody could find it, and an officer and lieutenant even searched. My first attorneys were the ones who first put all my discovery together on a drive, so trying to talk to my trial attorneys and find the same things when I have no copies to compare. I wasn't allowed to bring it on a visit with them to try and view on their computer. I wasn't able to show them on the video's visit things either, since there is no computer to show them documents I am talking about, and vice versa. Nor could I release the drive to them. The few minutes you gave us during lunch or at the end of the day during trial was when some of those things were first went over, or the first time they saw things that I had pointed out. It was when I could actually go over things side by side with my attorneys, and that was during trial, and it was too late. It was a huge issue in my due process right to effectively assist in my own defense when I was not able to properly view my discovery with my attorneys. To date, some documents I have never seen or received. Some I couldn't even open because of the computers available in the jail to view my discovery doesn't have the programs needed to open the documents. I found things during trial on my attorney's computer in that time that I could have done prior but had no access. Then you should see all I have found since trial ended in my discovery. Even I am shocked if my own team attorneys never found or saw it prior to bring up. Sometimes it would just be nice to do something for yourself, since it is my life that I am fighting for, and I know the case, situation, and our lives better than anyone else. Attorneys have other clients. As much as I want to be the only one, in the case they are working on, I am not. But again, when I am fighting a charge I didn't do for murder, and it carries a life sentence, I have a very limited time to go over my case. It is beyond frustrating. I know most attorneys say we don't come to visit or speak to you often because it's time taken away from working on your case. But in reality, you can't fully work on a case when you don't know much or have facts that you can't get all the facts without me because you don't know us. You can't know us by just paper, as the state tried to. Early on, I couldn't even call around looking for an attorney because the jail doesn't have a phone book, which nowadays I get. But they should at least provide an attorney legal directory, and they don't. You have to rely on friends and family to do everything, and thank God I have some left. But what would those do? What about those who don't? And not to mention, it's not on your friends and family to do. When I was first being interrogated, I did ask about getting an attorney and how to go about that. The detective said I needed to call an attorney, and when I asked how and the issues, they said to go through family. The way I see it, they make it that way so you get no help, because that's what they want. Even the public defender's office won't answer a collect call from the jail. You have to pay for it. Do you know how many people don't have the $4 it is for a jail phone call? And it's never just one call. You need multiple. You are put on hold and passed around. And while on that subject, I did call the public defender's office when I was first arrested back in July 2019. And do you know nobody would help me? When they went to look me up, I wasn't charged with anything. I was on probation, on a probation hold. They said if and when I was charged, or if my probation proceeded with revocation, they would be notified and come and see me. So as far as getting help or knowing what to do or speaking with someone, I got nowhere. So yes, I did drop slips to see the detectives after my first interrogation because I did nothing wrong and nobody else was helping. I had nothing to hide and figured if I spoke to them, they would realize they were wrong. I ended up writing and waiting over 2 weeks on multiple phone calls to the public defender's office before I finally got someone to come and see me. And then I had already hired an attorney after my mom called around, but it was too late. If there is any advice I have for anyone, whether you did something wrong or not, do not speak to anyone without an attorney. They use everything and anything against you. They make you feel you did wrong, even when you didn't. They play mind games. They lie. It is all so wrong how they continue to get away with it. Everyone watched hours of my interrogations, but the truth is there was so much that was edited out, so much more that people never got to see. Again, it is only what they wanted you to see and hear. For the last 5 years, everything I do is monitored, whether it is mail, phone, or visits. Granted, I have nothing to hide, but while I was fighting my case and going through trial, it is not right because the state made sure to listen to it all. And then fair trial, well, that's all crap too. Because if it were, we would have been able to put out a full and fair trial presenting all the facts and evidence instead of it being a one-sided story by the state. I am sorry, but this is wrong, and I am paying for something I did not do, and I will have to wait years fighting an appeals process because I did not receive a fair trial. I didn't get my due process right to present my full defense to the jury. To what I watched in shock while sitting at my 4-week trial, and I am not the only one who feels this way. I have heard and listened as plenty of people in the public agreed, many who didn't even know me or Lynn, but said that this case did not make sense. I was railroaded, that I didn't get a fair fight, and I am saying I didn't, and I know I didn't. I cried and screamed every day at my attorneys. So much was missed, so much was not heard, so much was lost in translation. Nobody understands TV shows of people on trial is nothing like actual trials. Nobody should be plastered on TV. Not their trials, their court hearings, their cases, etc. None of it. People think because they saw me on TV, they know me. Well, they do not. Some say I like attention. Let's be very clear, I do not. Not even one bit. It's quite embarrassing. It's hard, it's frustrating, it's a mess. I got people judging me on what they see, making assumptions, talking about me, saying this or that, and I try not to care what people think. But some days it just hits me, and I do, because it isn't me. I didn't do this. Or the others who pass by and whisper, there goes the eye drop killer or Visine murderer, and this and that. I don't care for any of those titles, nor is it me. I am super emotional. I cry a lot, because it is a lot I am going through. During trial, I had to hide a lot of that, per my attorneys, and that was hard. During breaks, I would cry, and I was told to clean myself up, because they didn't want the jury or cameras to see me like that. This is me. I am human, and this is all so much. Why can't I show who I am? Do you know the day I was convicted in jail in the pod I am housed in? The other inmates sat watching on TV. The correctional officer laughed and said what a joke I was. How I was fake crying. How if you held a cup to my eyes, it would be empty. This is no joke. This is not funny. This is my life, and I am being held responsible for taking her own life. For Lynn taking her own life, and people make a joke out of it, nobody gets it. Nobody has a clue what my family, my friends, or more importantly, what my mom and I have or are currently going through. There are major issues the jury never got the chance to hear, all relevant, and important testimony. And also the jury had before it evidence not properly admitted, which so obscured a significant issue that it may be fairly said that the real controversy was not fully tried. The state claimed I was a lying, greedy murderer. That is what they said this case was about. They want you to believe this case was a homicide and that it was all about money and Visine. Let's be very clear here. There was no murder. I did not commit murder. I did not poison Lynn, give her pills, or anything else. She either committed suicide or died from an accidental overdose. I was not greedy. I never took $1 from Lynn, ever. Nor did Lynn die from Visine. That's what they want you to believe, because clearly having 40 to 50 pills in her system is normal. The combination of those pills alone could kill somebody. Then let's add her ailments and medical issues too. You heard the medical examiner and the pathologist list off a ton of things. Interstitial mycosis, I don't even know. Hypertension, hepatic steatosis, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, a combination of baclofen, ropinirole, alprazolam, hydrocodone, and cyclobenzaprine use. The state says it's just Visine, because it couldn't have been there. It shouldn't have been there. The ME stated on the cause of death, States Exhibit 36, she died from tetrahydrazine or THC poisoning, manner of death, homicide. As stated on the death certificate, this fatal injury occurred at an unknown time, at an unknown date, when the decedent was given THC by another. The ME doesn't know what day or the time she died, but can say she died by THC given to her by another. How can she say that when it did not happen? And for that matter, there is no proof, no evidence, because none exists since it didn't happen. There was no fingerprint evidence, no DNA evidence, no Visine bottle taken, no water bottle taken, no plate taken, no spoon taken, no nothing taken for that matter, except some medication bottles. There was no physical evidence for this case. Then they say the scene was staged with crushed pills. Funny, because those same pills were in her tox screen. Also odd was the affidavits the very own detectives used and wrote to get records. State the plate of crushed pills was on the victim's chest or stomach, yet the picture shows them on the side table. I wonder how they got there and how fragments of those pills got on Lynn's chest. Maybe, just maybe, that happened when the medical personnel put the electrical pads on her upper body. They moved the plate, hence spilling some of the fragments. Seen as a lot of things were moved, because we saw that by pictures, not like they first took pictures, then moved items to try to save her life. No, they moved the items they needed to access her to try to save her life. Then they took pictures after the fact. Just like the spoon, whole pills, and the silver containers lying on the floor next to Lynn. Those were on the plate on her chest when I found her, not lying on the floor in the mess around her. Just like the ME said pill fragments were in her hair and shoulders. No pictures show that, nor do any reports from the deputy medical examiner, and she was the actual one on the scene, not the ME. The jury placed greater value on the testimony of the police and the state's experts than on findings of the defense's two experts, one of whom has extensive knowledge in Visine, and both who have seemed more knowledgeable than that of the state's own medical examiner. The jury chose to convict on a life sentence charge when there was no physical evidence, not single one piece. This case was purely 100% circumstantial. I was asked the other day by a family member, if there was no Visine in her system, what would have happened, meaning what would they have then claimed she died from? I am wondering the same thing. What would they have used against me then? The only part they got right was I lied. I did, yes. I lied over and over about Lynn, at Lynn's request and after, because I no longer knew what I believed myself. I also tried very hard not to tell anyone about her mother's death, because I saw no reason in that, nor was it my place. Hell, I wish I never found out. I didn't want to destroy memories of Lynn with the bad for others. I felt nobody needed to know about Lynn's mother's death or what part she was involved in it, because they chose to take things this far, knowing I did not do this. I had no choice but to tell and share her letters. I have very few people left in my life, and yes, that happens too when you have been locked up a long time like I have. It can be very hard, but then I realized if those people don't believe me and walked away, then they weren't who I thought, nor are they people I need in my life. You really see who you can count on when things get tough and who's still around for you. What people don't understand or know is before all this, I was happy. I was in love with a good man and his kids. They were my whole world. I planned a life with him, and we spent our time with friends and with the kids. We were very social. In the summer, we did traveling, softball, with his teenage daughter and his little one. I love spending time with them. The state tried to make this case about fighting by trying to make sense of our text messages. Yeah, so we had some arguments. Who doesn't in a relationship? But let me tell you, they were not anything like what was portrayed. We lived together. We spent most of our time together, and we had a good relationship. Yes, we gambled. We went out drinking with our friends at our friends' bars. So what's the big deal? I'm not sitting here and trying to say we didn't, nor was it our whole lives. We also took a trip to the Dells, as the state said. We were to go to the Virgin Islands, but a hurricane derailed that a week before, and we were to leave. And it took over a month to get refunded. We had the time off from our work, so we had decided to go away for an extended weekend. And Lynn offered and treated for a hotel that weekend. I was also on the phone with her often that weekend because she was super sick. And yeah, we had some great Christmases. I went all out for those kids, absolutely. The last year, we had just won $72,000 from Potawatomi, the month before. So they got even more that year. I did spoil them. I don't have kids of my own, and anyone who knew me knew I always wanted them. So his were as close as I got. I didn't steal her money to buy or get them things, ever. The state has taken every single thing out of context and made it into something it wasn't. None of this matters or had anything to do with Lynn's death. Scott ended up in the ER months after Lynn died, and I was the one who fought to get him to the doctor, called around and get an appointment sooner. I was the one who took him. He ended up having emergency surgery, his sinuses were blocked, and he talked to his ex-wife while there and had a will done. He was afraid I'd be mad he listed his kids and not me. Never in a million years would I have cared or wanted different. I was close with both his exes and the kids' moms and his family. I was happy in life with him and those kids. I had a job I loved, I made good money, and had great hours. It breaks my heart I lied to him. I not only lost Lynn, but I lost him and the kids. Our friends, I've lost everything including my life. There was no reason, no amount of money ever in the world that would make the state say, I don't care what the state says or try to say or prove, they are wrong. And then there's those I met here daily that are forever trying to get information, get close or turn against me. They think they know me, they whisper and talk about me. I trust so few and keep an even smaller circle. As I have said, I have nothing to hide, but me being all over the TV, I don't have to say a word. These people still try to make this up or that to help their own cases. I wouldn't wish this upon anyone. All I have been through upon anyone, including my worst enemy. I have spent months debating on what I was going to say here today, or if I was even going to talk. There has been so much I wanted to say. I hope I got it all out. I needed to say all this for Lynn, for my mom, and for I, as well as others struggling in the system or with it. I am not good at keeping my mouth shut. Usually I'm very outspoken about my frustrations and wrongs that have happened in all this. But in closing, I wanted to share why and how I am still functioning and standing after all this time. What helps me wake up and face a new day. I want people to know how my life has changed for the better and why. I want people to know how my life has changed. I want people to know that there are everyday people struggling in similar or other situations as I have realized, and it could always be worse. I am grateful for what I do have. And know that I am blessed. Even when things are hard, there is always a blessing. Even when it doesn't feel like it, and if we don't see it, sometimes it's a blessing in disguise. I have had so many blessings in disguise looking back that I didn't even realize at the time. Like early on, they were good. Like early on, when I was struggling with firing my first 2 attorneys, everyone kept saying they were good, and I'm crazy to fire them. But they did nothing for me. I went months with no contact and finally decided it was time. I got an attorney who believed in me and helped me and pushed for handwriting analysis, and we got the FBI. Or like when I lost another one of my attorneys early on due to another inmate turning against me. I ended up with another who was even better and who helped me get a pathologist when my other attorney said I couldn't get the funding. I could go on, but I am still alive, and that alone is a blessing. I woke up today. God gave me another day. So for that, I want to use this remaining time in closing and all the media coverage for some good. I hope everyone realizes life is too short. Don't forget to tell those you love every chance you can. Don't sweat the small stuff and live every day as it's your last, because tomorrow is not promised. If you know somebody struggling, be there for them. Get them help. Mental health is real. Don't wait until it is too late, or you will forever regret it. Do you know if you were to die here today, where you will go? I ask that because I do, but most don't. I spend a lot of days wondering if Lynn ever got right with God and if she is in heaven, and that is hard. I hope one day I get to see her again. Until then, I have to keep fighting, because the truth shall set me free. Freedom, after all, is about remaining in truth. God made us with dignity and gave each of us free will, and we will always have a choice about our attitude. We can remain in Christ no matter where we are. As I said, the truth is, I did not kill Lynn. I have played the what-ifs over and over from the day I found her. One thing I have come to accept is that no matter what she did, I did, or anyone did differently, it wouldn't have mattered. That is something I have made peace with, and that was Lynn's last day on earth. She took her own life by suicide, or she accidentally overdosed. Regardless, God knew long before that that was the day she was going to die, and he knew how. It was predestined, so nothing was going to change it. This is how I was finally able to accept her being gone and was struggling with what more I could have done. Whether prior to that day or getting more help or coming back sooner or whatever else, it wouldn't have mattered. This is something most people do not realize. God knows us. He created us. He knows everything, including the day we were born to the day we die. He chose that for her, so nothing was going to change it. This is the part that is hard for us. It is the loss of her being here. It is that she is not here with us. I get that, because anyone who knew her, I would hope, would feel that. But that doesn't mean you can't ruin somebody else's life over what she did to herself. You can't change what actually happened to whatever version you want because you don't like the truth. You can't blame somebody for something they didn't do. You can't put that on somebody else. You just can't. It is a lot to be accused and convicted of murder when I didn't do it. It won't bring her back, and it won't make her loss any easier. You're holding me responsible for what she did. Those were her decisions, her choices, her actions, and no one else's. Not even mine. One of the hardest lessons in all this, God keeps showing me, we are to love our enemies and pray for those who persecute us. But that is tough. I am trying more than anyone realizes, but mark my words when I say you are sending an innocent person to prison today. And when, not if, but when my appeal happens, my conviction is overturned, you will see that I was right, and that I maintained my innocence from the beginning, and that can be on this county, this medical examiner, the detectives, the DA, the jurors, and you, Judge Doro. All of you will have to live with that. All this time I can't get back these 5 years I have lost. I won't ever be able to have kids as I have always wanted and have someone call me mom or be there for my grandparents in their remaining years or when they pass. My grandmother now has dementia, which I am almost grateful for because we were so close that this would be too much if she remembered or realized what was happening. At the beginning of this, she was there for me and would still be. She just doesn't understand or know what's really happening. She also knew Lynn very well and all her issues. It is very hard because I don't get to see or talk to her and be there for her. I don't remember the last time I got to hug her, or my mom for that matter. It's been over 4.5 years now. I have missed weddings and births and so much more. I haven't been outside or even seen the outside in almost 3 years because jail is not designed to house inmates long term. There's so much I am missing and can't be a part of, and even so much more to come. I am working very hard on forgiving all, but it doesn't make any of this easier or right. I know, Lynn knows, and God knows, I did not do this. I can stand by that because even though I don't have much faith in our justice system or this county, I do in God. Before all this, my faith or lack of, mostly because I did not make time for him to be a part of my life. I did believe in him prior, but that was about it. This situation gave me a lot of time to search for answers and question everything, and even now I still do. Trust the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding, because we aren't always meant to understand, and sometimes what we go through is to learn from our trials and to be there for someone else's during theirs, or just to sit us down because we need to get something right. What I found is I want to be in control of me and my situation, but I am not, nor can I currently change anything, so I need to trust and give it all to God. This trust at times is hard and doesn't always come easily. The results may not be everything or anything I ever envisioned, but I have to continue to trust in God, for He knows what He is doing. I always felt so alone, but I have come to realize I am not. Even now, years later, I know I would not have survived all I have without God and His Word. I still question a lot. I don't understand the whys and the struggle, but I can say without my faith, I would have taken my life long ago like Lynn. I have been through so much, and for what I don't know. What I do know is I did not take Lynn's life. It is so unfair, but God has a reason, a plan, and a purpose for it all. I know, He will make this right in His time and His way. One of my favorite verses, Jeremiah 29:11 says, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you hope and a future." And I do believe, as I said, this all happened for a reason, and there is to be some good to come from out of all of this. So many people work to make this case about me and against me, but it is not the truth. During trial, the people who knew me said that this is not me. They didn't see this or think I would do this. They questioned the police on a lot of things. They were lied to by both the police and even me. I don't hide that. But even they said that I was kind, nice, would do anything for anybody. They trusted me with their children. These same people were my friends. They testified for the state because I lied to them. Yet they still said kind words about me. Why? Because that was me and is me. How often does that happen for the state's own witnesses? Lynn was my family. These so-called friends of hers were not around her last years. I was, and even being around her daily, there is so much I didn't see or know. Nobody in this case actually bothered to spend the time to getting to know Lynn, my mom, or I enough to talk about us, prosecute us, or even defend us. Even after all I have been through, I still love and miss her every day. If God is for us, who can be against us? Well, as I have been learning, it doesn't matter who is against us. It can be everything, everyone, and sometimes it seems like it. But as long as I have God in my life, it doesn't matter, because that's all anyone needs. He will be my strength, my defender, and my protector. The Lord is with me. I will not be afraid. What can mere mortals do to me? So you can say all and do all you want to me. Even after being convicted, the state is still trying, but try as they might. We all saw months back when the state turned over some letters days prior to my sentencing to make me look bad, and it backfired. When they can't even make sense of them or what they had clearly showing that was a setup or someone framing me. Remember they said the envelope that was folded in half, stamped by the jail, but not mailed, hand-delivered with letters asking somebody to make a tape? Even though I know there's still a tape out there in Lynn's voice, as anyone who knew her would know her voice, but nobody wants to take me to find it or get it in Whitnall Park. And to make notarized papers, when I know, because I was with Lynn at the bank, when she got papers notarized, they keep logs of what they notarize. Nor can you make a fake notary. So I would ask somebody to do that. Why? Again, I am in jail with cameras all over. As we saw, this is just added in. As we saw Amy today on the tape, there was an envelope. I've never denied an envelope. If anybody would bother to speak with Attorney Kukler, who was my attorney, it was sent to her, and it is to her, and it was for everything done wrong during trial. I know they listened to the tapes. I know they listened to my recordings, and it says that. I have never denied sending out an envelope. And Amy took it to the desk to see her boyfriend who was next door. I have never changed that. You also state that there was a J on the envelope. My first name starts with a J, just to be clear. Why don't you start looking at the detectives, jail staff, or other inmates? Because this crap is getting old. Oh, that's right, they already had. They made other inmates make up stories on me and on this envelope too. Again, why? Because they want a better deal for themselves on their own cases. Amy was also sentenced the day before she had spoke to the detectives. Why not ask the former inmate who lied on the stand how she is doing? Well, I will tell you, she is back in jail in more trouble, so I am sure she has or will reach back out, trying to offer some more made-up information for you to help, or better yet, why not ask the detectives to reach out offering promises, because they have done that multiple times. I have a friend who was willing to write on my behalf because they tried that with her. Her uncle is an attorney, she had no information to give them, and they repeatedly told her that they would offer her a deal or get her into treatment sooner. I asked repeatedly to be allowed to go to Whitnall Park, where those items were buried by me, for police to take me to the park. To this day, nobody has taken me, nor have my attorneys tried to get the judge to allow it either. They said they took a videotape. Also on that tape is it frozen in time multiple times. Nobody has physically taken me out of custody to get it, and I don't understand why. The time, energy, and money that was spent on pre-sentence investigation reports that were done for my sentencing could have been put towards finding that evidence or something more important that would have actually benefited my trial or case, when we all know those reports say what those reports say won't change the outcome of your sentence here today. How many other people have been convicted because of one reason or another? Nobody bothered to look for crucial evidence, still there and waiting to be discovered. You then say you can use those letters against me for sentencing. How is that right? I am not charged with those or even convicted, but you want and can use that against me. So again, as I said, what can mere mortals do to me? You can all say or do what you want to me. Even after being convicted, the state is still trying, but try as they might, I am sure they will keep doing all they can, as I know I will too. It will not silence me. It will not break me, nor will it change that I did not take her life. We are hard-pressed on every side, but not crushed, perplexed, but not in despair, persecuted, but not abandoned, struck down, but not destroyed. 2 weeks before my sentencing, I had a meeting with my attorney regarding restitution. The state is requesting almost $400,000 in restitution in an 86-page document that was submitted to the courts that was under seal, where even I can't get a copy to thoroughly go through it. I did review it with my attorney briefly, but have not been able to thoroughly go through it. But I was to agree or dispute within 2 weeks. How am I to do that without exactly thoroughly going through it? These numbers and figures that all came out in trial, so I am not sure why it is a secret and sealed. Yet the envelope with the fake letters brought up prior to jail, not from the jail, not mailed from the jail, who knows, was submitted to the courts at sentencing materials before my prior sentencing date, and that wasn't talked about during trial, but that was sealed. That was not sealed. It makes no sense. They can again pick and choose who sees and hears what they want and what they can't. But it is up to my attorneys to request to seal something. But again, I did not have attorneys working for my best interest or doing anything at that time. They were too busy saving themselves to help me, talk to me, or file anything on my behalf except withdrawal. And because I had counsel listed on record, I could not do anything for myself with the courts or get another attorney to. Defendants are at a huge loss to try and defend themselves or help in their own defense. It is damn near impossible, and that is unacceptable. It needs to change. There is no such thing as all defendants are to be considered innocent until proven guilty by the court of law. I was guilty from the beginning and never had a proper and fair chance to prove my innocence. So do your best, but I am still standing. I am still fighting, and I will not give up, as God is my witness. This case is far from over. You may think by convicting me and sentencing me that it is, but it is not over by a long shot. Until my conviction is overturned and my name is cleared, I will not rest, as I know neither will Lynn. I know a lot of people may have things to say since I have talked about God, but that is between me and God. I know as you sit here, you're probably thinking you've been convicted. Yes, I have, but I also know there are people who have been imprisoned who were wrongly convicted for crimes they did not commit. It happens, and it did happen in this case. I was advised to expect and prepare myself for you to hand on a sentence of life without parole. But even in judgment, God is merciful. So I ask you, put aside what many others are expecting and asking of you, and to leave the outside influences of media and politics behind, as you have seen, heard, and know more of the facts and circumstantial evidence of this case than most. As I stand before you, or sit, I am asking you to be fair, just, and merciful with my sentence today, because even though I was convicted, my innocence will prevail in God's time. Here at Waukesha County Jail, where I have been incarcerated for over 2 years, I started reading to the whole pod before bed, nightly devotions and prayers to the ladies, when someone was to be released, whether they were headed home, another jail, prison, or treatment. I would share one of my favorite verses, which is Joshua 1:9. Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. So I may be going to prison for now, but I will be okay. I will not be alone, and this is not the end of my story. I will continue fighting for Lynn's truth and mine. Thank you very much for your time today.